Hello and welcome back to another episode of Minimalist Gourmet, where today I'm going to be teaching you how to make the classic American comfort food, chicken fried steak and country gravy. Let's get started. We're going to begin by pounding out our steaks nice and thin. Today I'm using New York strip steaks. You can use any kind of steak that you like, but try to stick away from anything that has too much connective tissue. Although the plastic wrap is optional, I like to put down a nice layer here to cover the top and the bottom, keeps everything nice and neat, and makes everything easier to clean. When it comes to actually flattening the meat out here and pounding it thin, well, you have a lot of options. You can use a heavy bottom saucepan as I am here. Of course, if you have a meat mallet, you're welcome to use that. An empty wine bottle also works great, as well as a rolling pin. While pounding the meat out, remember to be gentle. Don't treat it like it owes you money. Slowly and gently pound the meat evenly across the surface until it's about doubled in size. You don't want to go super thin because the meat can tear and fall apart if you do. After pounding out the steaks nice and thin, I really like to tenderize them. This is simply a process of taking a fork or a knife and poking a bunch of holes into it. Since we're going to be deep frying the steak and it won't cook for very long, this will really help create a nice, tender final product. Make sure to get both sides. This is absolutely worth the minute of extra time that it'll take. With our steaks ready, let's go ahead and set up our dredging station. We're going to begin by taking about a cup and a half of flour, and seasoning it. Our first seasoning will be salt, of course, and make sure to give a generous amount. Follow that up with some granulated garlic, a nice dose of paprika for color and flavor, and some ground black pepper. Of course, you can season this to your liking. How about some lemon pepper, some dried onion, or maybe even a little bit of cumin? Whatever you like to add, go ahead and put it in and make sure to give it a very nice stir before continuing. I also like to hit the steak directly with just a touch of salt because we do not want under-seasoned food. Building our wet station, I'm adding one whole egg as well as about an eighth of a cup of milk. You want to make sure to mix this really well until the milk and egg are completely integrated. This will be used to bind everything together. Let's hit our pieces of steak with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. This adds a nice, rich depth of flavor. Make sure to sprinkle on a little bit, rub it in completely, and don't forget to get both sides, of course. Again, we do not want under-seasoned food. It's time to begin dredging. We're going to be doing the dry, wet, dry method. So begin by placing your steak into the flour mix and coating it very well on all sides. This will create a nice foundation for everything later on to stick and get that nice, crispy crust that we're looking for. You want to shake off any excess flour at this point and not have it be too thick, and then it goes straight into the egg mixture. Just like before, you want to make sure to coat all sides evenly so there's no exposed steak. Shake it off before placing it back into the dry flour mix. This time, when you're putting it in the dry flour mix, you really want to push this in. Take your time here and don't be shy. Make sure to cover the pieces really well and just push it down in there. You want as much flour to stick in a nice thick layer as possible at this point. Once all the surface of the steak has a nice layer of flour all over it, give it a shake to loosen up any flour that didn't stick. Place these onto a tray or a plate and allow them to sit at room temperature for about 15 minutes to form a nice thick crust. Meanwhile, go wash that club hand. While our steaks form a nice crust for that 15 minutes, this gives us a perfect opportunity to make our country gravy. In a small saucepan over medium heat, melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Once the butter is melted completely, add 2 tablespoons of our dry dredging flour mixture. That's right, you want to save aside 2 tablespoons of your dry flour mixture because it's already completely seasoned with everything that we want to add to our gravy. Mix that in really well with the butter until you form a nice paste and continue to stir and cook over medium heat for about a minute. Hit it with a little touch of salt. Once again, we don't want anything under-seasoned. Once your roux has reached a very light brown color and that raw flour flavor has been cooked out, we are going to slowly add 1 cup of whole milk. Say it with me, hot roux, cold milk, no lumps. As you add in the milk, stir constantly to make sure that no lumps form. Our final ingredient is a very generous amount of ground black pepper. Continue cooking over a medium heat until your gravy comes up to a simmer. Once it reaches a light simmer, it will be as thick as it's going to get and ready to use. You can test the thickness here by running your finger along the back of a spoon as well as checking for seasoning. In a large pan set over medium-high heat, Heat just enough oil to come up about halfway up your steaks. We're going to be pan frying these, not deep frying them. That means that only half the steak is covered with oil at a time. Gently place your steaks into the pan, of course away from you so you don't have any splashes, and begin frying on the first side for about 3 to 5 minutes. After cooking on the first side for about 3 to 5 minutes, notice how the juices have risen to the surface. This is a very good indication that they are ready to flip. Go ahead and give both pieces of steak a flip so they can cook an additional 3 to 5 minutes on the second side. After a total cooking time of about 7 or 8 minutes, these are done. Pull them off and put them onto a paper towel lined plate or cooling rack if you have them. Let the steaks rest for about 5 minutes before eating. This will give them a chance for the crusts and the juices to set. After the longest 5 minutes of waiting in my life, these chicken fried steaks are finally ready to devour. But do not forget that absolutely delicious and delectable country gravy that we made, and do not be shy. It goes on everything. Make sure to slather and lather your steaks as well as your mashed potatoes. That's right, guys. It is just that simple to make this absolutely amazing, comforting, classic American dish at home tonight. Thank you so much for watching. And hey, since you've made it this far, can I recommend one of my other great videos for you to watch as well? See you again real soon here on Minimalist Gourmet.